Firstly, you are graduates of the University of the West Indies, which was conceived and continues to represent the ideal of that Caribbean nation. Most of you will probably not have taken a single class outside the walls of the St. Augustine campus, but the degree that you now cherish so much is not a St. Augustine, but a UWI degree. The University of the West Indies, much more so than any other institution, be it the vaunted West Indies cricket team or the nebulous Caribbean community, is a genuine glue that continues to hold this region together, as it has done for the over 60 years since its inception. But how much longer, I ask, can the UWI continue to provide this unifying force in the face of the challenges that confront it? Permit me a brief moment of nostalgia in reminiscing about a time not all that long ago when both faculty and students of the St. Augustine and Mona campuses, and to a lesser extent Cave Hill, came from all over the Caribbean. Mona in particular was a meeting place for peoples and cultures, and campus life was a kind of year-long carifesta. People from different parts of the Caribbean developed lifelong friendships, married and created new families, husbands taking back wives to their home countries after graduation, wives remaining with their new husbands in their adopted countries. This was the Caribbean in the making, real integration, a force far more genuine and effective than meetings of heads of government at which few decisions of significance are taken or implemented with any urgency, or the bloated bureaucracies of our regional institutions, or meaningless tokenisms like CARICOM passports, which may be identical in size and color, but don't make travel and entry from one country to the other in the region any easier. It is no accident that CARICOM achieved its most significant strides towards functional cooperation during the last 2 decades of the 20th century, because it coincides with the period when graduates of the UWI became heads of governments and assumed top leadership positions across all spheres of activity throughout the nation and the region. The Caribbean as we knew it at the end of the 20th century was essentially a UWI creation, where these leaders were bound not only by the family ties, but were imbued with a sense of their regional commonality. Today, the UWI remains preeminent among tertiary-level institutions in preparing graduates like you to assume leadership positions across the Caribbean. At the same time, permit me to say that it is a matter of some regret to observe in the first decades of the 21st century that the UWI has also lost many elements of its regional personality that were so essential in the creation of that Caribbean nation. I hasten to emphasize that no criticism is being made here, nor is any implied. We're all aware of the pressures under which all universities operate today, and especially a regional university like the UWI, which depends on national governments for a substantial portion of its funding, not to mention the increased demands for university places, the cost of providing such places, and the competition from other institutions, both regional and external. While the devolution of administration to the national campuses is understandable and in many respects inevitable and is on balance a positive development, one cannot help having the feeling that in responding to these everyday demands of survival and viability, we have thrown out the baby with the bathwater. We have been too willing to give up the ideal of what the UWI was and could be in building a Caribbean nation with greater cross-fertilization of faculty, students, and programs across all its campuses. Because any intelligent observer will notice a clear correlation between the decline of regionalism and the decentralization of governance structures of the UWI and the growth of national campuses. There is an ongoing debate in Jamaica today about the relevance and usefulness of CARICOM, with recurrent calls for the country to actually leave the community as it is currently structured and operates. Yet amidst all those calls, there is no suggestion that we no longer want to be part of a Caribbean nation. No calls for leaving UWI, CXC, or West Indies cricket. No, ladies and gentlemen, that call is to leave CARICOM. And this is a very important distinction because it says to us that my generation has somewhere along the way lost the plot. That in our current leaders, both political and technical, we have become too engrossed in creating the institutional trappings of functional cooperation, and in the process have lost sight of the essential element that makes the Caribbean one, that is, you, the people. My own assessment, for what it is worth, is that rather than creating the enabling environment for peoples of the Caribbean to integrate, as UWI does so effectively, our leaders, yes, the leaders of my generation, have instead got in the way of the people by creating structures, institutions, and a distended bureaucracy that only they understand. In CARICOM and its multifarious institutions, we have created a metaphor for integration, not integration itself. My charge to you today, graduate, is for your generation to rescue the regional product of creating a Caribbean nation from the bureaucrats in Georgetown and the political leaders whose vision rarely extend beyond their 5-year terms in office. You can begin by seeing the geographical space of the Caribbean as your space, your oyster, your nation. Insist on your right to move freely from Port of Spain to Kingston, to Bridgetown and Georgetown. Whether you set out to look for opportunities for further studies for yourself, as you leave here in search of work and the start of new careers, or when you simply come to plan a family vacation, consider the Caribbean, your nation, as first among equals. A crucial element in this mission to rescue the regional project is your individual commitment to the preservation of the University of the West Indies as a truly regional university. Regional, not just in its governance structures that link the individual campuses together, but in your openness and willingness to take postgraduate courses and research projects at Mona or at Cave Hill, and to remain and teach on those campuses also, even if you eventually return to give service to this campus or your native countries. In that regard, I strongly support the Caribbean Integration Bursary Project, conceived as far back as 2006, that was aimed at enabling students to spend at least one semester at another of the 3 UWI campuses. And if you must stay at home, whether here in Trinidad or other countries of the region, do not be silent or passive observers to the actions of those who advocate and promote insularity and divisiveness. The region is depending on you, whom we have prepared to lead us into the future, to make your voices heard, to promote, protect, and help build the Caribbean as a place where your sons and daughters will want to raise families and build their careers.